Welcome. This is Brian Harris with the Independent Black Voters Speak as we continue our series of Know Your Candidates. Folks, we're getting down to the May time frame, and it is very important that we start to know our candidates. We have, I keep saying, over 66 positions for judges coming up. The decisions on this year will dictate a whole lot of things for the next 6 years to come and beyond. It will determine a lot of decisions that are made all the way up the line. I'm here with my crew. Hey, how's it going? The Black Book Dream Team. I've got Miss Bria. How you doing, Bria?
Hi, I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Okay. And I got Jason. Jason Swan, the Swan Song. How you doing, Jason?
Fantastic. Another day in paradise.
Folks, we've been doing a lot of hours here, and I thank these two because I couldn't have done it without them. We've been doing a lot of hours talking and vetting a lot of candidates so that we can know them and hopefully you can know them. Today, we've got a person who is running for the highest office in the land, the Supreme Court, the Nevada Supreme Court. That's where the buck stops. That's where laws are made in the state of Nevada. It's important that we know who is on this court because it dictates what happens in our lives now and in the future. So without any other further ado, I have Esther Rodriguez. Sorry about that, Esther. Give them your name, Esther. Tell them what you're running for. Tell us a little bit about you, Esther.
We're going to teach you Spanish no matter what. This
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Esther Rodriguez, and I'm running for Nevada Supreme Court, seat B as in boy. And my family and I are proud to call Nevada home. We have been here for over 22 years, and we hope everyone is doing safe and well out there in light of these unprecedented circumstances we're all facing. So I appreciate you letting me connect with your voters a little bit via this new forum for me. I apologize. I'm doing this off of an iPhone, and I'm praying that I don't get any phone calls to interrupt us.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the Supreme Court. What does it do? What's its role? Give us your overview.
Right. Well, you summed it up just perfectly. The Nevada Supreme Court is our highest level of the state court system. We have municipal courts, city courts, Clark County courts, Washoe County courts, courts throughout our state. And recently the voters put in a second level of appeals. We have our Court of Appeals where a lot of cases are handled. But as you mentioned, the buck stops at the Nevada Supreme Court level. There are currently 7 justices and 2 of those seats are going to be on the ballot. I will be at the top of the ballot as I am running in seat B, and there is also seat D, who I think you have interviewed and endorsed a candidate for that race, Ozzie Fumo, and I'm hoping I can win you over this morning to get your endorsement for seat B. I am not running against Ozzie. I'm running against an incumbent as well as another candidate who has filed.
Okay, great. And like you say, it's important. We are the independent Black voters, and we're not the Review Journal. We don't want you to come and talk to us like you're the Review Journal. We want you to talk about the issues that are affecting the Black community. Obviously, the Supreme Court is very important that we have people that have values and beliefs that are in line and that understand the struggles of all people, including Black people, so we go forward. So I'm going to give you this time to tell me a little bit about your values and your beliefs and tell us a little bit of what differentiates you from some of the other candidates.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, and my father is from Monterrey, Mexico, and my mother is Mexican-American, several generations from Texas. So I am Hispanic. I consider myself a minority and Hispanic. If elected, I would be the first Hispanic on our long, long history of the Nevada Supreme Court. I would be the first Latina and the first woman of color, and I'm very proud to represent that to folks. I have always fought on behalf of the little guy. Like, as I mentioned, I've been litigating my entire legal career here in Clark County in the state of Nevada. I am a court-appointed arbitrator for Clark County as well as Washoe County. And going back to my family, I was the first person from my family to attend college. And my parents really pushed the value of an education. So I was very fortunate to be able to attend Princeton University. I have a master's from Stanford University, and my law degree is from Tulane Law School out in New Orleans. So I kind of in my youth, I know before we got on the recording side of this, we were kind of talking about youth, and I got to a wonderful experience to experience different parts of the country with my education and my early career before becoming an attorney. Yeah, but my legal career has been here. And I have always advocated on behalf of citizens, the average working people. And I've always felt that even though I was blessed with the opportunity to get a fabulous education and wonderful opportunities, I really, really appreciate that. And I understand that a lot of people don't have those opportunities. And so I've always felt that I needed to use my education, my talents on behalf of the community. So I've always tried to work on behalf of seniors, on behalf of youth, and on behalf of people who really need my help. I am not I do represent businesses. I have represented large corporations, and I have the support of the business community. So it's not like I'm going to say I hate businesses, because I understand the importance of businesses in our community. But I have also tried to really help the people that need my help, that don't have a lot of experience with the court systems and are really intimidated by our court systems. And it's my belief that the courts are here to serve the people. I've tried to do that as an attorney, and I want to continue to do that as your next Supreme Court Justice.
Okay, great. Tell me, like I say, a little bit that, as I said, delineates you from the incumbent. Tell me, I know there was just a ruling that just went down. I think it was dealing with social justice and bail reform, or so. Tell me a little bit where you all differ. Tell me a little bit about that case and what your opinions are versus the opinions of the incumbent.
Right. Yes, sir. Well, I think we differentiate on a lot of areas, and that's why I decided to move forward in trying to challenge the incumbent. It's a very difficult race, but I feel it's important. It's an important race. The case that you're referencing just recently came out, like in the last 10 days. And if folks want to learn more about it, there's some links in the Las Vegas Sun and the Las Vegas Review Journal. It's the Valdez Jimenez case. And basically, the legal community, on behalf of mostly the minority population, which is a very large population in Clark County, have been moving for bail reform for quite a bit, which is basically the system where we have is, if you have the money to afford to get out of jail, you can, as opposed to the average people who may not have a an amount of money to put towards bail. And if they are in jail, that detrimentally affects their lives in a lot of ways. It can disrupt their jobs, their family situations, where maybe a guardianship would come into effect. And there's a lot of problems when you're in jail for a non-violent crime. And so there's always been the belief that other factors should come into consideration, as far as the nature of the crime, what your criminal history is, and if people in the community are available to vouch for you, your pastor or your boss or persons like that who can vouch for you. Those things should be taken into consideration. And in this recent case, the Supreme Court agreed with that. It was just a landmark, fabulous decision that came out. And the decision was 6-1. 6 out of our 7 justices gave this wonderful decision. And the only dissenting opinion on that was my opponent. Mm-hmm. And I was very disappointed to see that that she would take that position, because I think it is harmful to the community. And fortunately, 6 other justices were able to move forward with that on the criminal side. That's a criminal case. Similarly, there have been on the civil side, and the civil side is talking about, when we refer to civil, we're talking about like negligent cases, consumer cases, citizen cases, those kind of things where people go to civil court to sue each other or to receive damages when they've been injured. And there have been some very similar adverse decisions that my opponent has authored that significantly make it more difficult for attorneys to represent you and to get you just compensation in your courts. I mean, there was a very large case, it's called the Chernikov case, where a disabled man died on one of our buses, and the jury ended up ruling in the family's favor, gave a significant amount of damages to the family, justly so. The matter's appealed up to the Supreme Court, and again, you can read this opinion from my opponent who authored it, but she reversed that decision, sent that back down, and it significantly changes the jury instructions, went against what the jury instructions normally would say, and it's a very disturbing opinion. And so I think both on the criminal side and the civil side, my opponent and I come from completely different views. You know, I'm definitely one for, I feel that the courts need to be looking for justice and for fairness, and those decisions do not reflect that, sir.
Okay, great answers. As a matter of fact, did Attorney Belinda T. Harris submit that one, the first one you're talking about?
Yes, sir. Yes, she's an outstanding attorney, outstanding public defender, and that was her case.
Yes, she's also been endorsed, and yes, I remember we talked about that, folks. We talked about that a little bit. Esther, like I said, this is the biggest law of the land, and there are going to be a lot of issues, you know, coming through the Supreme Court, and that's why I tell my listeners and my watchers that we need to know the history of the incumbent, not just the name or not the fact that they're incumbent. We need to know where their head is. We need to know the people that are going to go up against them, because, you know, we just recently had the homeless ordinances that came out. I'm pretty sure they're going to end up on the Supreme Court. And I'm pretty sure we want to have people who are open, who look at some types of solutions that take all of the community into consideration. The middle class, the rich, and the poor, because we'll never make poor go away. We'll never make, well, right now, until we change our beliefs and our values, homelessness is not going to disappear tomorrow. And people are going to have some place to live. And we cannot continue to just ignore the problem and think it will go away, or put in ordinances that are designed literally to push them from one area to the next area to the next area. And I say that we have a lot of social justice issues. We have a lot of economic issues that are going to be coming up. And I believe that we have to vet this candidate a lot. Now, Ozzie has gotten our support. I think he has a balanced view, and I'm glad that we were given the chance to talk to you. As a matter of fact, Ozzie was the one who recommended that I talk to you, because prior to this, I didn't know you. I didn't know your values. Bria, Jason, do you have any questions you would like to ask Esther?
My question would be, is there any room for improvement that you see that's needed for your seat that you're running for right now? And if so, what are you going to do to improve it?
Hi, Bria. Yes, a good question. You know, and I think it kind of goes to what Brian was indicating as well, as far as continuing to understand the issues that are coming from the community. And I'm not just talking about even the Clark County community. Before all of this shutdown and pandemic occurred, what I was trying to do once I filed for office was really trying to reach out to all communities, whether it was the Black community, the Hispanic community, or even the rural communities. I was doing a tour up through Elko, Ely, Fallon, Fernley, all over northern Nevada, because every community has its own issues that are really important and make all of the difference in the world to them. And I don't think that the courts have necessarily been engaged, maybe at the lower levels in the municipal courts or even in the district courts. And I think this whole crop of new judges that are running for office, I think what you're doing is fabulous in getting to know your candidates, because we can really change the disposition of the courts from the district court level up to the Supreme Court level. If you have judges that want to be accessible, engaged with the community, and continue, not just right now when we're out campaigning trying to shake hands and kiss babies and all of that, but once we get elected into office, but to remain involved and engaged with the community to continue to understand the issues that are important. And I really don't see that, especially at the Supreme Court level. Most people don't even know who their Supreme Court justices are. You know, you ask any person on the street, it's kind of like that Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon one where they ask people like, oh, can you name the vice president? I think if you ask Nevadans to name, you know, their Supreme Court justices, they would have no idea, because I don't think people really realize how much it affects life. But to get back to Bria's question, I think continuing to stay engaged, education in the community, and understanding, I really want to stress that message that the courts are here to serve the people. And once elected, I will continue to be involved in the communities and try to pass that message and really engage our young people. I think young people really need to start looking towards legal careers and a path to justice and improving the community as a whole by becoming attorneys and moving up to become judges.
Absolutely.
Nice. I do have one more question, just going based off of what you said about younger people.
Yes,
What advice can you give to someone who's younger, who's maybe interested in pursuing a legal career? What word can you give just for younger people that may be interested in that?
What kind of advice? Was that your question? What kind of advice?
If someone is like someone like myself who's early 20s that's interested in a legal career, if you could give them one piece of advice for it, since you are running for the highest seat in court, what would you say?
Well, I definitely would encourage young people, especially women, and especially young people that are coming from disadvantaged cultures and communities, you know, that it is possible. There are definitely scholarships. There are groups to support. And and I'm talking even at the high school level, there's a lot of programs, but I would highly, highly encourage, I think diversity in the legal field, we're still well underrepresented. And especially once you get to the judiciary, the judge level, we are so underrepresented. You know, I had to go back before I started making the statement that I would be the first woman of color or the first Hispanic on the Nevada Supreme Court. I went back to research it because I didn't want to make a false statement with that representation. But that's the truth. And it's like, we have a long history in this state, and it's outrageous to me. And then I started reading that there were many states across the United States where, yes, we're starting to see more and more attorneys, diversity in the attorney area, but definitely not in the judge field. And I think it's important because, you know, the judiciary needs to be representative of the citizens. And so it works both ways, both because judges can be more empathetic and understand their communities, but also the communities will feel more comfortable when they see judges of like minds and similar to them. And so I think diversity is very, very important. And I would highly encourage young people to keep going and that it is possible. And it's a wonderful field. You can really do justice for people. And I think for me, more so than compensation as an attorney, has always been, I'm so happy when I'm able to help people and they're grateful to me for my assistance. That's the best reward for me.
Okay, great. Jason, you have a question?
Let me unmute myself first. My question, Ms. Esther, is: do you plan on doing more than one term should you get elected?
Well, hopefully I'm still young enough to to do that. The term is 6 years, so that's a good question. 6 years is a long time. But yes, I would, this, to me, this is going to be the hardest campaign to challenge an incumbent. I do have the support. I'm very, very fortunate to have good support, and I can talk about that a little bit. But yes, if I'm hoping to do an outstanding job, like I said, to really get myself out to the community so people will know my name. They will know who their Supreme Court justice is. And I'm talking about going from, you know, schools to community events and staying involved in that way. So yes, I would definitely seek a second term.
Awesome.
Great.
And my other question was about your support. Can you tell us more about your support in the back end that's helping you out?
Sure. Well, I'm very proud of the endorsements that I've received thus far. So far, I have received the endorsements of both of the veterans organizations here in town, and I've also received the endorsement of several unions, the iron workers, the electrical workers, and there is an association that is called the Nevada Justice Through Verdicts Trial Lawyers Association. I've also received their endorsement. And I've interviewed with a number of organizations, but unfortunately, they haven't made decisions yet. So I'm waiting to hear about several others. But I'm proud to say that I do have the endorsement of veterans, unions, and the working families across the state. I do have support from the business community, as I mentioned, as well as the Trial Lawyers Association and the folks on the other side. So I feel I've always tried to do stay a neutral, you know, to try to work on behalf of both sides. And I've done a lot of arbitrations, mediations for both sides. And most people feel that I'm fair because I do have what I call repeat customers. So I think even when I rule against people, they continue to ask me to work on their matters. And so I'm proud to say that I have the support from both sides.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Now, Esther, this is the Independent Black Voters, and I keep it real and ask some questions that are tough questions because it's good to see change. There are a lot of women. There are some Black women. There are some Black men. Still not enough because we know, just as you said, because of the makeup of the judicial system, not just here but across the country, there are biases. There are some major issues that are not addressed because we, as the voters, do not vote, and that our voices be heard. So we want to we thank you for coming on our platform. We want to talk to you a little bit about how, or what your thoughts are about how we can improve the judicial system so it actually becomes colorblind, so it becomes balanced in the rulings, so that justice cannot be bought. I look at a lot of things that happen in Nevada, and justice can be bought. Justice is not blind. Justice needs to improve. Give me your thoughts on that, and then I got another question to ask you.
Well, I would totally agree with your statement, and I know that as a judge, some of the judges that I've run across, you know, that would be a radical statement coming from a judicial candidate as myself. But I can tell you from personal experience, when I started practicing here back in the late 90s, I up till present, really, I run into a lot of discrimination in the courts. And I know that it's funny because when I talk, I've been going to a lot of, before there was the shutdown, I went to a lot of community events and really had some heart-to-heart discussions with a lot of Black women. And I would kind of ask them, you know, do I offend you when I label myself as a woman of color? Because you look at me and you think, okay, she's blonde and she looks white or whatever, you know, but we would have these discussions. And first of all, unfortunately, they'd say, no, I'm not offended. So, but, you know, for me, I received the discrimination before I ever would even walk into the courtroom. because people see my Hispanic last name on a pleading or on a correspondence and automatically assume that I am not up to par with other white male attorneys. And until you actually live the discrimination and understand the bias, it's very difficult to explain that to people, to get them to understand that. You know, and it's because they say, oh, it's in your head, or, you know, it's, you know, you're imagining that or whatever. But in my early career, I lost a lot of hearings, and I was shocked because I've always been a winner, you know, out of high school and going to Ivy League, and I'm just like, you know, I was just getting check marks and winning all the way. And then I moved here, and all of a sudden I'm losing on hearings, and I was absolutely shocked. And until, you know, somebody kind of explained that to me and said, well, you know, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, you know, that where judges are buddies with the attorneys that are before them. And even though I knew that my pleading, oh, excuse me, I knew I was going to get a phone call there. Sorry about that. You know, even though I knew my written work and my oral argument was better than the guy on the other side, I was still losing the hearings. And then I would find out, well, it really wasn't a fair hearing. It was because somebody was friends with, it was the old boy network going on at that time. I think that has definitely improved in the court system quite a bit, and that is by putting fairer judges on the bench. I think the people are getting more educated about, once they had a bad experience with a judge, then they get involved and understand it's important to put the right people on the bench. We have a long way to go. And that's not to say that I don't understand then, you know, what's also happens with the African-American community. Because I know that, yes, when you have an African-American defendant walk into the courtroom, whether it be in a civil proceeding or whether it be in a criminal proceeding, and it's the same way with Hispanics. I represent a lot of Hispanics in workers' compensation claims. There is an automatic prejudice against them, as they're making up this claim, or they're exaggerating their claim, or this really didn't happen on the job. As in real life experience, I can tell you statistically, I win when my clients are white. I win their claims a lot more than I do when I'm representing a minority client. That's just my personal experience and observation. And so I know that when I take on a minority client, I am going to have to fight a lot more. I'm going to have a lot more appeals and a lot more hearings, but that's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier, that that's not right. And I'm willing to put my time into the case to make sure that justice will be served for each person. I don't want, I mean, we all have to do our part.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you being candid, because as I said, we're here to talk about true issues, and you're correct. Are we getting better? We are getting better. Do we have a long way to go? Yes, we have a long way to go. As an African-American man, I can clearly state we are guilty until proven innocent. As you said, on the criminal side. On the civil side, we're lying until we're proven to do the truth. And it is difficult to trust in justice when justice is not blind. And we hope by engaging in the political system, listen to me, brothers and sisters, when you are an educated voter and you vote in the right people and you vote out the right people, then you will get blind justice. It will never happen by osmosis. It will never happen by complaining after the fact. You need to be ahead of the curve. You need to take the time to watch these videos and others, and you need to vote for the right candidate. I'm going to ask you my last question, and then I'm going to let you kind of take it home for us. Everybody is very happy to talk about education. It always sounds good when you're talking about education. Everybody is great to talk about veterans. These are the comfort zones. Women even. We have a society that truthfully, and I'm going to put it, the Black community, they say by 2053 will have no wealth as a unit. Education, everything comes back to equality in economic opportunities, which is not here in Nevada. We look at just recently the community benefits program that was put together to build the radio stadium, which took $750 million of tax dollars. And yet when we look at the reallocation of the economic opportunities, the Black community is left out. Even there are laws on the books that we are supposed to keep records on any public works on by race to determine if there is some type of equal economic justice. Will you be a person that will fight for equal and economic justice for all, as hard as we fight for women, as far as we fight for veterans, as far as we fight for other groups? We believe that education comes through a economic playing field, a level opportunity playing field that does not leave Black folks at the minimum wage jobs and everybody else somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very important. I think that's kind of what I was talking about in terms of a level playing field, whether it be on the economic justice or the educational opportunities that we provide for our communities to better themselves above these minimum wage paying jobs. Absolutely, that's so important. We all bring something to the table. We all have talents. We all have abilities, and we just need to be given that opportunity to succeed. And when there are those obstacles and there's barriers that are just keeping people down, we have to do something about it. It's incumbent upon all of us to try to improve ours. That's better for all of us as a society, as a community.
Absolutely. I always say America is only as strong as its weakest link. And if you ignore the weakest link because it's not the one that sounds good, then America is in trouble one way or the other. We've got about 3.5 minutes left. I'm going to say this. We talked before here. I've talked to other people about you. To be honest with you, before I had talked to you, I didn't know who I was going to vote for. I was thinking, okay, the incumbent, well, maybe not, but I didn't talk to anybody. Folks, we have reached out to every judge on the ballot. Some of them have contacted us. Some of them have ignored us. We've sent out multiple requests. Esther has come in. I talked to her beforehand. I've talked to other people about her. So I don't do this a lot on here, but since we're going to be putting out our sample ballot with our endorsements, Esther, we decided, and this is something that has come from us conversing with you, that we're going to endorse you for the Supreme Court as you run, for the primaries as you run for your position there. So we want to wish you much success. We'll talk to you more about this, but you now have the endorsement of the independent Black voters as you make your run to be the first woman of color to sit on the Nevada Supreme Court. So now you got 2 minutes to take it home and tell more people about you and tell them quickly why you should be the candidate of choice.
Well, I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. That is primarily what I'm running on, is the support of the people and the support of the community. So I'm proud. I will be proud to put that on my webpage and to announce that. So thank you, sir. And Bria and Jason, appreciate that as well. And so I would stress to any of your voters or your viewers, your group, that if they want to reach out to me directly at any time, I make myself available to folks when they have issues or when they have questions. That's not just going to be during this campaign process. That's going to be when I'm elected. That's what I've been trying to tell people. And when I've had discussions with people, they've especially the larger union organizations, they've indicated to me, we don't expect you to rule in our favor all the time, but we'd like to have an opportunity, if you rule against us, to come talk to you about, the issues that are important to us and why we feel so passionately about this particular issue. So I would invite you and your voters as well to continue to keep this open door communication, throughout I'm hopeful I'm going to win this one, that I will be your next Nevada Supreme Court Justice. And so my door will always be open to you and to the community. Please continue to reach out to me. I've always advocated on behalf of the citizens, on behalf of the consumers, on behalf of the communities. I will continue to do that as your next Nevada Supreme Court Justice. Seat B, I just want folks to really remember to fill out their ballots. They're going to be coming out in about 10 days. Fill out your ballots, mail them in, and make sure you sign them, because that's going to be the problem if we get votes kicked because people don't sign the back of the envelopes. And I hope we don't get into too many problems with the voting, but really appreciate your endorsement.
Thank you. Well, we are running out of time. And again, we thank you for your time. Hey, Black Book Media crew, thanks again for coming in here and help us vetting the candidates.